This video is one in a series of videos that cover database topics in 3 themes. We look at Oracle APEX, Application Express for web applications, relational database concepts for designing and building databases, and SQL, the programming language for working with a relational database. If you want to work with the video series, you can go to this URL to get the scripts and handouts. In this video, we go back to the master detail form that we created a couple of videos ago. We have to make a decision about how we want the end user to interact with the data. Sometimes they need to be able to enter data or maintain or change data, and other times they just need to get data pulled from the database. So what we'll do is change something I did with the source code for the master region of our master detail form. I had filtered out any lists of people that are not employees. And then we saw in the video before last that that created an issue. When we added a person that was also an employee, they disappeared, if you will, because we hadn't made them an employee yet. So we'll go back to listing all persons and then any related employee data. I also need to make a change to the LOV where we designate the supervisor of an employee. Then we'll look at the difference between the interactive grid, which is the look that we have in our master detail, versus the interactive report, which will give you a lot of the same functionality except that you cannot alter the data. You can't add records or change existing data. So we'll create the interactive report based on an SQL query. This will show us only person data with the associated employee data. Then I'm going to modify the phone display by using an LOV. This is my quick and dirty way to format the phone display. It works fine if you're inside the United States and we know that you're going to enter a certain number of digits. There are other ways to do this. We may or may not get to those in the remaining videos. You can certainly find information by Googling this. Then we will use the download option just to show you how things will be pulled out of a report or an interactive grid into a file outside of the application. So I'm logged into APEX as one of the developers. I'm logged into APEX. Remember, we have the developer application where we try things out. When we like it, we move it over to the production application. We haven't done that for a while, but we will start moving some of the forms and reports over from our development environment over to the production environment in the next couple of videos. Let me go into daily operations, run that, go to peoples, and go to the master detail. So in the master detail, we're now seeing all people because we see 122, whereas we only have, 25 to 30 employees. I'm going to leave it this way, but I want to clean up the code. It's commented out, but I'll go ahead and remove it. We edited the source. If I go to edit page 53, if I select the master region and then go to the source, these lines that were commented out with the 2 dashes in front of each line, I'm simply going to remove those just to clean up the code. I'll save that and run it, and there won't be any difference in how the form looks. We're still seeing all people. If somebody's an employee, we see the related employee information. I do need to make a correction in the details section. We added Felipe as a person, and we see his related employee information. So for Felipe, if I go over here to the employee data and click edit and come to supervisor, let me switch that over to single row view. It's easier to see the fields. And I look at supervisor ID. Here where I created this LOV, I'm taking the wrong number, purse ID, and storing it in this field. And I need to make a correction to that LOV. So I'll come back to edit. Then I'm going to do a right click on the application so that I can get to shared components from that tab, and I will go to the list of values. Now I'm not going to actually edit this particular LOV. Let's take a look at it quickly. And we have concatenated 1, 2, 3 columns into a single column display. Last name, comma, space, first name, colon, space, pers ID. And the return value, the value that gets stored in the field, I have listed as person or pers ID, pulling it from the persons table. It would be the same number in persons or employees. That's not what I want. So I'll click cancel and I'll create copy. And I want to copy from the employee list, and I'll call this employee supervisor list, and click copy. Go down and find that employee supervisor list and edit this code. Now initially what I'm going to do is show you both the pers ID and the employee ID. So I'm going to do emp_ID and concatenate that with the pers ID. Down here for the return value, I will simply change that to emp ID, and I don't need the table name in front of that field because it appears in only one of the tables. I'm going to click on Apply Changes and go back to my form in Page Designer, and then I have a select list, but I need to change which list of values. So I'm going to look in emp list, and if I don't see what I just created, then I will do a refresh so that Page Designer recognizes the change I made. Go back down to Supervisor ID, Employee List, and now I see the Employee Supervisor list. I'll set Display Extra Values to No and put the -- for null display value. I'll save that and I'll run that. So now when I go to Edit and I want to do single row view, I will see the new list for Supervisor. So I see Doris Moore, and this is the number I want to store, this 500005, not the 90030. So I will pick Doris again, and then I will save that change to the data. Now I will come back one more time to the list of values. So let me go to Page Designer. For some reason I've got a couple of different tabs going here, but I'll go to one of the Page Designers, go to the Application, Shared Components, List of Values, and now that we see that it's working, I'm going to come in and actually take out the pers ID so we don't have that showing up. And I'll apply that change. I think while I'm here, I'm also going to take emp list, which I didn't change, but I'll change the name of it to, I think I'll change that to emp pers ID list, so that we know that this particular list of values is going to give us or store the pers ID, not the emp ID. So I save that, I come back to persons, do a refresh. There's no obvious change here, but if I go to Edit, Single Row View, now I'm just seeing the Employee ID. I no longer see the pers ID along with it. I might want to remove the ID altogether, but I don't mind seeing that because it confirms what data is being stored. So we're going to use this master detail to add or modify data. What I want to do now is create an interactive report that will combine the data from persons table and employees table and only give us employee data. So I'm going to come back to the application itself, and I'm going to create a page. This will be a report, and it will be an interactive report, not the interactive grid. And I think I'm using pages in the 50 series, so I'll do 55, and this will be RPT For report employees, click next. I do want to create a navigation item under people. This will be based on a query, not on selecting the table, because I'm going to combine data from more than one table. I'll copy in the code and then talk about it. So I'm selecting Purse ID, and because both employees and persons have that column, I have to specify one of the tables. Then I'm selecting fields that come from persons as well as fields that come from employees. So I'm joining persons to enter join employees on Purse ID, and I'm limiting the list to active employees. I'll do a check on the code. It's valid. I'll click create, and we can run that. And we see that we have the same type of filtering capability, so I could do Sanchez and see that I have Teresa Sanchez. I could do Felipe and see that I have him as an employee. I could do VOL for volunteer, which is the role of some of the people in the employees table. They're not actually being paid, they're volunteers. So I have a lot of capability for sorting and filtering and grouping data. But I want to add a couple of things here. I want the zip to actually change to city-state zip. I want to format the phone number. So I'm going to edit this page. We already have the zip for city-state. I'll select that column or a page item, switch that to plain text based on a list of values. So notice this list of properties is a little different than what we saw with the interactive grid. From here, I want to get the zip list, and I want to change the heading so that it says city, state, zip, and save that, run that just to check it. Now we're seeing that in this column. I would like to format the phone. I'm going to use a list of values to do that. I will do a list of values and create. This is going to be phone format LOV. It'll be dynamic. I'll remove the example code, and then I will copy in the code. So I'm using the substring function. I'm taking the first 3 digits from the field phone number, starting with position 1 and the next 3 digits, or the first 3 digits. Then I'm following that with a period. Then I take the substring function, and starting with position 4 takes the next 3 digits, add a period. Then I do the substring function starting in position 7 and take the last 4 digits. So I'll create this list of values, and that pops us back into Page Designer. I'm not sure why it did that, but that's okay. I'll do phone number, and I want this to be plain text based on a list of values, and I'm going to pick the phone format LOV, save that, run that, and we now see this formatting with the period between the 3 sections of a phone number. I want to point out that we can download this into a CSV, separated value, Excel compatible file. But the first thing I'm going to do is change this report so that I only see the employees, not the veterinarians and not the volunteers. And so I see 16 employees, and these would be active employees. And I'll do a download and CSV file. Then I'll open that, and it launches in Excel. If you see something like this, that simply means that the column's not wide enough, so you can click between the 2 column headings and double click on that, I should say, and it'll widen the column. And we see that we have 16 because the first row is the column heading, and we have 16 rows of data. So we're only seeing employees, and they're active employees. I can expand the phone number and the city, state, and address. You can also download from the interactive grid. There's just a lot of nice functionality built into both the interactive grid and the interactive report. We don't have to do much other than tweak it for our display.